This is an overview video of the written lesson plan rubric for ECE 121. If you have not already done so, it is suggested that you first review the lesson plan guideline document and/or the lesson plan video review. So let's click in and look at this written lesson plan rubric document. So before we go through the individual criterion, we're going to look at the documentation and guidelines at the bottom. The Education Department expectations and policies specific to methods and lab courses state: lesson plan implementation. Lesson plans will be graded according to the course calendar due date. The initial grade will stand. However, students will be given one opportunity to revise lesson plan components as outlined on the written lesson plan rubric. So you are going to submit your written lesson plan. It will be evaluated according to this rubric, and that grade will stand. But you will have an opportunity to revise if necessary or by choice. The second component here is students must earn a score of 3, satisfactory or higher, on the following written lesson plan rubric criterion: standards and objectives, introduction, activity, and conclusion transitions. These are highlighted above in grade, and we will review the individual criterion in a moment. In addition to meeting 3 satisfactory or above for these 4 criterion, you must also score an overall score of 75% in order to implement for self-evaluation. Students scoring less than 75% on the written lesson plan rubric will need to revise their written lesson plan and resubmit the original and the revised with their implementation video. If revisions are not submitted, students may implement their lesson plan for self-evaluation, but the implementation will not be reviewed for grading. If you need to revise your initial lesson plan, your instructor will indicate that on the feedback provided. Just a reminder that revisions to this policy were made for the fall 2020 semester during distance learning. This is because you're not going to the Child Development Center to implement your lesson plans this semester. Okay, let's take a look at the criterion. So there's 4 criteria, beginning with standards and objectives, that must meet a minimum scoring of satisfactory 3. Standards and objectives. We're going to jump over and we're going to look at satisfactory and exemplary. So satisfactory scoring can be earned if objective is clearly stated in observable terms with appropriate DELFs learning standards listed. Remember that you're writing 2 measurable objectives: what the children are doing, how the children are doing that, and can you observe it? And your objectives must support your standards. For exemplary in this criteria, objectives are clearly stated in observable terms with the DELFs listed, showing that students are using appropriate early learning standards. Exemplary would be ensuring that both your standards and objectives are developmentally appropriate for the age group that you're writing your plan for. Materials and preparation. Again, staying in satisfactory 3. All materials needed for the activity are listed, but not described in detail, and preparation procedures are listed, but do not describe the environment, materials, or rehearsal. So let's see what the exemplary expectation is. All materials for the activity are described and detailed. How many pieces of paper, how many cups, how many trays or aprons are needed. And your preparation procedures are described in detail. Where in the classroom is your activity going to take place? What materials are needed? And are you rehearsing? Does your lesson plan include songs, read-alouds, etc.? Remembering that if you include songs, finger plays, or any other component in addition to your primary resource, the song, finger play, lyrics should be included on your lesson plan, and you will also need to APA cite these resources. Procedures. Starting with your introduction, there's 3 components to your procedures. Introduction is engaging, but could be more inspired. Students are mostly interested. Remember when we talked about the introduction of your lesson plan, that you're encouraged to consider at least 2 out of the following 3. Eyes on, ears on, hands on. So again, if we look at exemplary, introduction is impressive and engaging. Students are encouraged to learn because the transition is promising and intriguing. You're making the children excited and wanting to come over to your primary lesson plan location. The activity criterion is long, so let's break this down. For this one, we're going to start by looking at exemplary. I know you're all doing your very best, so let's break this one down. Teacher modeling or guiding practice is detailed and allows for student inquiry and engagement, meaning that this is not a Q&A session. You ask, they respond. You do, they follow. Somewhere in your lesson, you're modeling and guiding practice, but you're then allowing the children to explore the materials independently. So the second component says that independent practice is plainly connected to the objective. So are you allowing the children not only to meet the objective, but to expand with their critical thinking? You're providing opportunities for the teacher to measure the understanding and mastery. So you're able to set up an objective, and then you have the opportunity to measure their understanding and mastery. This is the observation component of each of your objectives. You're including divergent questions for scaffolding, and you're challenging students. Remember, challenging children is at optimal stress level, so we don't want to frustrate them, but we do want to scaffold their knowledge and encourage them to expand that knowledge. Evidence of careful planning and thought was given to the developmentally appropriate procedures, knowledge, and classroom management. So this last part, classroom management, you can't plan that. You can't write that, right? Think about though things like, are you going to have 2 or 3 children at the table? Are you going to invite all of the children over for a group time lesson? So classroom management itself, live and in person, can't be written in your written lesson plan, but you can plan for group size. And remembering that each of your steps, if you have the children engaged and busy, is going to support your classroom management. The final criterion for under procedures is your conclusion and transitions. So again, let's shoot for the stars and look at exemplary. Conclusion unmistakably summarizes the lesson and restates one of the learning objectives, and it also offers extension activities, providing transitions for the student that is related to the activity. So extension activities can come in the form of asking children, if we did this again, what would you want to do? Or considering bringing new materials to the table. Maybe the child has an idea. Consider here, one objective needs to be reinforced, and the transition away needs to be consistent for the children. Creativity, you're under 3 for satisfactory. The lesson's thoughtful and it's creative. You're using materials in different ways, right? Exemplary is that wow factor. It's clever, it's original, it's inspiring. It's something that we don't typically see or know in an infant-toddler environment. And the final criterion is grammar and mechanics. To earn that exemplary score, lesson plans need to have 2 or less written errors, and APA citation is correct, showing demonstration of utilizing appropriate resources in academic disciplines. Please remember that even if a lesson plan was your own idea, you need to go back and resource a book, a resource book, a blog, a website, even Pinterest. but you need to go back and have an APA reference. For example, if you created out of your own brain a lesson plan about balls, then simply Google or go to a resource book, go to the back index, look for balls, and reference that book if it's appropriate. Remembering if you're adding songs, finger plays, or other elements that you also need to APA cite those. So your written lesson plan has the opportunity for you to earn 28 points. Okay? Remembering that those 4 gray criterion must earn a minimum of 3, and that all students will have the opportunity, if the gray areas are not met at 3, or you do not meet 75%, which is 21 points on the written, that you will have the opportunity to revise your lesson plan and submit it with your implementation video. After you implement your lesson plan, you will complete your self-evaluation, those 5 questions that we reviewed on the lesson plan guidelines. Here, reflection provides a thoughtful reflection and gives consideration to improvement for ineffective components of the lesson plan based on self-analysis and suggestions from others. In this case, your classmates will be giving you feedback on a few of your lesson plans, and you will always be provided with feedback from your course instructor. We hope that this was a helpful overview. If you have any questions, please contact your course instructor.